When I bought my Lamborghini 6 months ago, I put the deposit down without even seeing it. So the first time I actually got behind the wheel, I had no idea what to expect. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? If this is your first time on LamboView, what I do here is teach you how to go from a Honda Civic to a Lamborghini. I show and tell what exactly it is like to being a Lamborghini owner, and I made this channel to share that with the rest of the world, so do yourself a favor, subscribe to the channel. I put out content every single week. So the very first time I drove the Lamborghini, I remember pulling up to the dealership and I saw the car from a distance. The top was actually in the process of going down while the vehicle was slowly driving away to get gas. And I remember the first thing that hit me was how wide it looked. It was almost like a giant snake or like a python that was going down the road. And it looked a lot wider than expected. And honestly, I get why people confuse it with a Aventador every single time. But when you realize how low this car actually is, it almost feels like the car is below you, not at your level. I want to say as soon as you walk up to the car is so low that it is right below your waist. And you could even, if the top was down, you could even just step into it. So that's how low the vehicle is. And that's the stock height, no modifications at all. It doesn't feel like you're getting into it. It almost feels like you're dropping into it, to be honest. So let's talk about what exactly it was like whenever I first sat inside of it. So whenever I first sat inside of it, it was a little bit weird getting in. I'm not gonna lie. The car, especially the Spyder version of this, the convertible one, is extremely tight. I'm about 5'10", and I'm just barely fitting into this car. You only have so much leg space, and you only have so much headroom as well. And then you have to balance that with being able to look at the rear view mirror getting into the car. But then I got adjusted. It felt a little bit better. But when I got inside of it, it completely felt different. It literally felt like you were sitting inside of a jet or a fighter pilot with the way that the buttons were laid out. It honestly felt a whole lot more raw. It wasn't worse, but it was definitely different. One of the things I will say is whenever I sat into the Lamborghini, I was coming from a brand new 2025 BMW M4, which has the latest updates. It was the LCI version. So in terms of technology, that drawback did hit a little bit. The buttons did feel a bit older looking, or the cars did feel a bit older looking. It's obviously a pre-owned vehicle, so you do see like a little bit of things here and there about the wrinkles in the seats and all that. But honestly, as soon as you started the engine, all that just completely went out the window. So what it was like when I actually started to drive it, there was a few things that really caught me off guard. I remember these three things. So the turn signal, if you can actually see it on the POV right now, on my left hand, the turn signal is actually on the steering wheel. The way that this guy works is you have to flick it with your thumb to the left or the right, and then it's going to keep on blinking. So if you want it to stop, you have to push that button in order for the turn signal to stop, which is a two-step process. To just do a quick lane change is really weird at first, but you do get used to it. The second thing was the gear shifter. So reverse, neutral, and all that. So to put the car into reverse or put it into park is on my right side in the center console. But if you wanted to put this car into drive, you have to pull on the right paddle to put the vehicle into drive and get going. And then if you want to put it into neutral, that is actually you pulling on both of the paddles at the same time, and then that goes into neutral. So on the top of my center console, there are those 7 or so gray buttons with the red one right in the middle, which is the hazard lights. On the very left button is the window on my driver's side, but the second one to that is the one that controls the front lift of the car, of the Lambo. And if you want to lift up the front, you have to pull on that for just a couple seconds and then let go. And then it does take about 5 or 6 seconds for that front lift to go up. But that was also another thing that needed to be done in order to leave the parking lot. So I'm juggling these three things off the bat, and it was already a little bit unusual to begin with, but it was really cool. Your muscle memory is completely useless in this car. So it does take a good 2 weeks or so to get very familiar with all the controls. It's almost like driving not a vehicle, but it does feel like you're driving a plane in some sorts of ways, because the button layouts and everything is all very different. And I personally, even though it took me about 2 weeks to get used to this, it was a really cool feeling because you're obviously in a completely different ballpark car, and it should come with its own different unique types of buttons and ways and workarounds. So as I started driving, the very first thing I noticed was that this car is loud. Night and day compared to the BMW M4 G82 that I had. And the craziest part was that this was just in strata mode. So I remember driving for a quick few seconds, and then not only that, the next thing that I noticed immediately was that the windshield felt extremely narrow. It was almost like you're locked into the small view, and you honestly feel everything a whole lot more. So not only was I in a Lamborghini at the first time at this point, but at the same time the roof or the convertible top was completely down. So off the bat, you literally feel like you're in a movie at this point, with the sounds and with the buttons, with the cars going by that almost look like semi-trucks going by you at this point because the car is so low. First reactions, this one was a huge one. I pulled into a plaza or a parking lot halfway through the test drive, and then there were a couple of kids there, and they just went absolutely crazy, and it was a really cool feeling. And then I also remember driving past other cars, and the cool part was that you kind of feel like you're Moses, because the other vehicles, they honestly just kind of stop and then they let you go. I don't think any other vehicle would kind of put you in that position, but you literally felt like you were parting traffic at this point, going through the plaza. And then from the plaza going back to the dealership, the drive wasn't even that long. It was only probably about 2 miles or so, and obviously at this point the car wasn't officially mine, so we don't want to put too many miles on the car, which made complete sense. But it was honestly that quick, 10 minutes or whatever it was completely enough to just get the feel for the car. I honestly bought this Lambo over the phone. I put a hold on it. I signed off on it all through the phone without even seeing the car or without even driving it. As soon as I saw the car or the Lambo on the website, I immediately knew. I picked up the phone and I just called, and then the rest was history after that. But yes, it did take a good 2 weeks to get used to everything. I remember taking this car home. It was very, very nerve-wracking. The way that other types of traffic around the vehicle is very, very different. Whenever you're driving the car or the Lambo on the highway, you start seeing vehicles around you that just start acting very, very unusual. You'll see some cars that try to speed up to you. You see cars in front that try to brake to see you. You see cars around you that are just veering out the lanes because they're trying to look through their rear view mirror to see you, or their side mirrors. So everything just kind of goes out the roof. So everything in terms of what you know about traffic patterns, very, very different. The car can basically teleport to one part of the highway to the other. You start getting used to people throwing their hands out the window, shouting funny things at you, just going crazy. And honestly, all that is just part of the movie. I remember being extremely anxious the first week that I had the car or the vehicle. I would avoid different parts of the city. I would have to kind of pre-plan my trips to get to somewhere. I'd have to just stick with going to familiar places because the terrain might be different. You may have a spot, you may have a city or a road that may be under construction, which is a big, big no for this car. So things like that. And then the rest was history. If you had any questions, comment down below. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel. I'll see you all for the next one.